Welcome to Connect Vegas. We feature conversations with Las Vegas creators and leaders, learn about their work, and explore our shared love of our favorite city. And now, welcome our host, Ben Laifsky.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Connect.Vegas Podcast. I'm Ben Laifsky. I'm here to introduce a conversation with Jay Vickers. Jay is the COO of UNLV's Sports Innovation Institute. As Las Vegas has grown as a sports capital, as we've seen this explosion from the Super Bowl to F1 to every other type of sport in Las Vegas, UNLV is set out to become a leader in the space. And that's exactly what they've done with the Sports Innovation Institute. They have research on health and performance. They have brain research. They have sports management programs. They contribute to understanding of economic development around sports. Just every aspect of sports and how it impacts our society is touched by the Institute. And Jay is a fantastic leader. He's a wonderful member of our community. It's an absolute pleasure to know him. I really hope you enjoy this conversation with Jay Vickers. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Connect Vegas Podcast. I'm here with Jay Vickers. Jay, could you introduce yourself and talk about what you do?
Hey, Ben, thank you for having me. As you stated, I'm Jay Vickers. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for UNLV Sports Innovation Institute. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to talk with you about Connect Vegas and how our institute has connected to this great city and all the things we're doing in the future.
So maybe you could explain, because you're a newer group, a newer institute within UNLV. Can you explain what you all do?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're really proud of is we're seeing this growth in our new sports ecosystem, and we'll quickly become the sports and entertainment capital of the world. And we will continue to do that through the great leadership we have throughout our city, whether that's LVCVA, LVGEA, but also UNLV. And UNLV plays an interesting part in our growth as we prepare our students, our faculty, by connecting them with all of our sports entities internally and externally. So the Institute serves as a hub to not only provide opportunity for internships, grants, collaboration with all of our sports entities, whether that's the Raiders, the Aces, the Knights, the Lights, either partnerships and UFC, of course, or doing things like what we had back in July, SEIcon, which is our Sports Entertainment Innovation Conference in collaboration with Syracuse University College of Sport, Falk College of Sport, sorry about that, as well as our other program, which is the Leadership Executive Advancement Program. And lastly, but definitely not least, is our Speed Lab, which was donated to us recently by Captain Transportation. And SPEED is the acronym for Sports Performance, Education, and Economic Development, which give us the opportunity to take a mobile van out to the community and meet people where they're at to educate them on sport, the industry, provide resources, testing, and et cetera, in the areas that sometimes we can't get to.
I don't know if a lot of people know the breadth of the work that UNLV does in this area, and I know you just touched on it, but there's some detailed research, like some of the brain research, and then there's also the management parts of it. Can you maybe hit some more highlights about the variety and the breadth of the work going on?
I'll tell you this, there's a lot about our university that I've learned that a lot of people are unaware of. And some of that is maybe our fault because we're growing so fast. So we're a product of that growth we have to try to keep up. And some of that's just about people power. And like most companies that are growing fast, we don't really have the people power sometimes to keep up with what's happening. But to give you some highlights is, I'm very proud to say that 2/3 of our student population are non-traditional students and first generational students. And with that demographic, we are still one of the top 130 public research institutions in the country. So that means we're the fastest growing university in the country. So when most universities are declining in attendance, we are actually up in attendance. And that's due to our great faculty and students, to your point, that are working in areas like hospitality, brain health, where they're collecting great data analytics as it relates to CTE, Alzheimer's, and et cetera. We do great work in collaboration with Louisville Cleveland Clinic here in town, as well as work with UFC and others as it relates to head injury, but just understanding more about the human body. So those are the type of things that we're seeing that has been really great, but also the special collaborations that we have with other universities, specifically Syracuse, where we're collecting data together. We're doing different projects with our students, as well as with our faculty members.
And you touched briefly on SEIcon. I know that was a big lift and something you're very proud of. Could you talk about what happened this year with that and what's coming in the next year?
I can tell you what, it was a heavy lift, but it was a great journey. It was almost 3 years in the making, thanks to some great colleagues as well as partnerships here in Las Vegas, specifically USC, Circle, and Syracuse University Fall College of Sport. These entities coming together was unique in itself, but we also wanted to deliver an experience unlike most conferences. As you may be aware, you go to a conference, if the subject matter is, here's the conference on NIL, name, image, and likeness. You will learn everything you need to know about name, image, and likeness for that entire day or 3 days. We wanted to have more of an omni-channel approach where not only did you learn about NIL, you also had the opportunity to learn about how did Las Vegas become a sports and entertainment capital. But you also had to learn about sports marketing, and you saw new innovators within our space or existing innovators that are having a positive impact on sport. We wanted you to have a one-stop shop, if you will, by coming to the conference, because like any other business, there's always different facets of your business where you can collaborate and grow or collaborate and learn, and which is really our mantra, which is education plus collaboration equals deal making. We kept the group. SEIcon is built to be intimate. It's built that we want to have great people there, but we want to have quality folks there. The quantity can be important, but if you have too much, those real intimate conversations that lead to deal making tend not to happen. One of the things that we're really proud of this past year about SEIcon is feedback has been, wow, I met people I would have never met at another conference. Not because those folks aren't nice. It's because they just don't have the time. There's too many folks coming to them at one time. And by the time they get to myself or someone else, they're tired. Or they're trying to run away and get out of there because they've been bombarded by business cards, resumes, and et cetera. And it wasn't real deal making. And so that's probably one of the biggest compliments that we have received from several different folks. So going into 2025, for next year, same time frame, July, as well as at Bergen Hotels, which we're very happy to be at again. We're going to keep that same mantra as we move forward, which is let's keep it intimate, let's have quality over quantity, but make sure people have a great experience overall so they can continue to be educated, continue to collaborate, and with the hopes that it will lead to deal making for their respective companies or their innovation. So we're going to continue to do that. And we're going to streamline a few things just to make sure that we really do capitalize on all those facets. But we anticipate to have a really great year. And we're also anticipating anywhere from 1,000 to 1,250 people to attend.
Yeah, I know what you mean about having a little bit more of an intimate conference. Some of the conferences in Vegas, although they're amazing, you need to work out for weeks before you go because you're going to be.
It's almost like hiking, huh?
Oh yeah, you need to get and hiking on concrete, whereas the Virgin was a very comfortable place and you could move around easily and you could hear each other, like some of those little things that really make a difference.
The other thing too that we heard that was great is, man, it's really hot right now in Vegas. Jay, it's 115. I'm like, really? Wow, I haven't been outside in 2 days. It's 78 in here. How do you feel? And they go, and I started laughing, of course. You know what? This was perfect. I was a little intimidated by the heat when I looked up the weather report or what to dress, but I'm very comfortable here in Virgin. So we thank Virgin for making sure they kept the AC on.
There you go. I want to take it back to learn a little bit more about you. Please talk about where you grew up and what were some of your interests when you were a young person.
I can tell you this. I was born in Thomasville, Georgia, raised in Tallahassee, Florida. And just to give you an idea of the distance, So those that are familiar with Las Vegas, it's pretty much been in Henderson, driving from Boulder City to Las Vegas on the southwest side. That's about the distance from Thomasville, Georgia and Tallahassee. So I can really stay off from both areas from that standpoint. But I grew up playing sports, having great parents and uncles and cousins and aunties. And they really focused on me going to college and trying to be successful and doing the best that I can do and whatever I decided to do. My parents were very adamant about education, regardless of how fast I ran or how strong I was. It was, if my grades dropped, whatever sport I was playing was going to drop to. And so I made sure that I stayed focused on that. And I'm glad that had that type of discipline, because that has carried on with me throughout my career and my journey. And one of the things that I always wanted to do, and I made a promise to my friends, I said, hey, look, this was sixth grade. I said, I'm going to work my butt off and I'm going to get a scholarship. I don't know where, but I'm getting a scholarship and that's what's going to happen. And that's exactly what we did. We all worked our butts off. And I would say who all made that pact, three out of the four, we all got scholarships. And one went to Georgia Tech, one went to Tulane, and I went to Notre Dame. And so keeping that attitude is what has propelled me to what I do now and what I will continue to do in the future. And so I'm really excited about that as we move forward.
Did you have any interesting or odd jobs when you were starting out?
You know what? I would say the interesting thing is, my parents always taught me to try to be independent, right? And so the only odd job that I did was, look, I wanted to go buy the new CD that came out. Remember CD? So I wanted to buy the new CD that came out, and my parents were like, look, we're not going to pay for that, but you can go work for it. And so I would go around and I would knock on people's doors and say, hey, we'd like your yard rake. And so I would look at the yard and say, I can rake and mow your yard. So I did a little bit of hard labor, had all the calluses in my hands, the things of that nature, but it taught me about people. It taught me not to be afraid to have a conversation with your neighbor or people that don't look like you, and also understand what your value is. Because there was a few times that I probably should have charged more because it was more work than I anticipated. But then I also understood the power of relationships in doing that, because some of those folks, they allowed me to be in their home or in their property because they trusted me. And so that was something that to this day still holds value to my core, as part of my core values.
The work that you do now, I don't imagine a young person is even aware of this specific type of work that you're doing. What led you or inspired you to get involved in education and marry sports and education in the way you have?
That's a great question, because I was one of those young folks that didn't know that these type of jobs existed. And even though I was very blessed to earn a scholarship to the University of Notre Dame, I never knew where the money came from. I just thought it was Notre Dame. They're a very private, rich school and everything. But as I was there and started to understand why they invited us to dinners and different events, and I started to be very curious to why, and ask some questions like, hey, these are donors that support our program. And they just, to be very blunt, without their support, we can't give you a scholarship. And I go, I would keep showing up to these dinners. But at the time, I still didn't know why that these jobs existed, that there was someone out there building relationships, cultivating that relationship, and making that ask and stewarding that person later on. The dinner was the stewardship piece of it, right? And so I didn't understand that till later. I worked in the private sector, respectively, with Gallo, Hershey, and Pfizer, on 3 really great companies, Fortune 500 companies. And I learned about relationship building and relationship management from that aspect of it, because when you represent products that are probably number 1 or number 2 in their respective category, you don't really need to do a lot of selling. The selling is really about you selling yourself. They already know what the product does for their bottom line, but do they like you? Do they want to sit next to you? Do they want you to come into their office and be in their space, if you will? And so that's what we have to learn, is how do we take that relationship to that level? What I didn't know at the time was that was just giving me the building block to understand fundraising and how I can make an impact in higher ed. And so I always was very curious about what the people in suits were doing on the sideline and why people were there. And one day I got very curious and had a conversation with the former director of athletics at Ohio State, Gene Smith, who happens to be a Notre Dame alum. And he said, look, all the things that you've done up to this point have prepared you to be in development or fundraising. I go, well, what's that? And he actually educated me on what it is. I said, oh, I can do that. That's easy. Now, it's not always easy, but it was something that my skill set fit. And so I went into the revenue generation side. I understood now what jobs to look at, because if you ever go to athletic department's website, it's very confusing when you see assistant athletic director, associate director of this. They're not the same titles that you would normally see in corporate America. And so once I was able to streamline that, I found my first job in athletics, and that was at Fresno State. And at Fresno State, we did some great things there. Danny White is who hired me my first job at athletics. I mentioned his name because he's now the director of athletics at Tennessee. Probably known as probably one of the best athletic directors in the country. And he gave me my first job and opportunity. We broke some records there. That I went on to Arizona and the UNLV, University of Wisconsin, Northern Illinois, now I'm back at UNLV. And so what I've tried to do whenever I've had the audience meeting those student athletes or students in general, I try to get them to think outside the box of what is sport? What are the opportunities in sports? You don't have to be a head coach. You don't have to be a trainer or an athlete, because only a few can get those jobs, but you can be that support staff. You can be a president. You can be a GM. You can be the chief marketing officer. You can be the executive director of their foundation. There's so many jobs you can do. You can work in digital. And so I like to spread that message to many people, because I didn't have that. If I would have known that this world existed, probably would have went there first, even though I do appreciate the journey I had through the private sector, because that taught me other tangible skills. But I probably would have took a different route.
That last thing you said really resonated with me. I think when people think sports careers, they lock into the idea of it's a trainer, it's a coach. But you're talking about this world of jobs that exists outside of just what goes on the field. What led you to that, the greater world, that larger world, as opposed to, did you ever have an interest in the training and coaching side of things?
You know what? I really didn't. I thought about it at times, right? And again, it goes back. I'm a first generation college grad myself. And so at some point, and which is great, and it's a great accolade for your family, but there is a knowledge gap of what opportunities are out there for you. Like the conversations I have with my kids today are very different than the conversations I had growing up, because I know what jobs are out there. I know what opportunities are there for them. So I can guide them a little differently and more directly versus putting out a wide net. I can say, oh, you want to be an attorney? Great. Let me the dean of the law school. Oh, I have a friend who's also an attorney. I can open up doors that I didn't know existed before. And they're very easy. They're just nice people that's willing to have conversations and want to educate young people. So you think it's hard, but it really isn't that difficult to do that. But just the unknown was there at one point. And so for me, I think it's more of the point of being able to have that conversation and understanding that the world is much larger. I had a conversation with a teacher one day, and she was talking about, hey, it's so cool. You played at Notre Dame and you went to sports, your grades are great. But I also let these kids know when I asked them to say, hey, tell me what you want to be when you grow up, Jay, or to the class. And the first thing they say is anything other than being in sports. And so I paused there for a second and said, hey, no disrespect to you at all. I think everything you're saying is outstanding and you're exactly right. But may I ask why you say something outside of sports? We know that only a 30% is made the pros, and then you have coaches. It's just very difficult. I said, yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. And you should continue to do that. But can I challenge you to think a little bit outside the box? Because what do you mean? They can still work in sports. Someone has to run those organizations. The Raiders don't run just off the coaches and the players and the trainers. The Raiders run off having a president, a GM, a digital person, a marketing. Somebody has to turn the lights on. Someone has to manage the people that are cleaning up the restrooms and the stands. And she goes, oh my God, I feel so bad. She actually was in tears because she felt like she was killing some of her young people's dreams of working in sports. And she had to change her mindset to working in sport is more than just, hey, Xing an O's or taking a hand off or catching a ball or wrapping up an ankle. And she needed to see that way. I was very impressed with how she took that. And they also make me feel good that I changed somebody's mindset.
That's wonderful. I reflect on SEIcon. One of the speakers I was able to hear were the folks that run TKO, which is probably one of the biggest live event companies in the world now. And the breadth of that organization and hearing just the amazing things they're doing. And that speaks to just how much opportunity there is in sports and live events.
And one thing that I love about some of these sports organizations today is the ability to have their athletes and try to make sure. And I think TKO, UFC, doing really great job of this. Okay. At some point, your UFC career is over. If you do these things, we can help you with your transition from being a fighter or whatever you were doing before to back in the real world. And I think UFC, from what I've seen, has done a really great job of that for those that want it. And they offer the opportunity for them. Now, granted, they need to walk through the door and be willing to do it, but they've done a really great job. You walk around their headquarters, former fighters all the time, either they hired, they're working for them, they're doing different things now, or they're filling some endorsements. And what's really beautiful about that is that company was born and raised right here in Las Vegas. And they're one of the top, as you said, one of the top entertainment companies in the world.
Question for you about your path and all of this. How did you pick up what you know about leadership and managing people? How did you grow into the executive that you've become?
One of the things that has always been, I've learned from or always been instilled in me is never stop learning, right? And it's great when someone says, hey, Jay, will you be my mentor? That's an honor that someone feels that you can be their mentor. But I also feel like you need to also be willing to be a mentee. And so I have really embraced that mentee role. And whether that person knows that I see them as a mentor or not, doesn't matter. I'm there to learn and I'm watching what they do. And so I started that in college and we had a transition of coaches from Lou Holt, who I deeply admire, to a new head coach. And I saw the differences in leadership style. And at that time, I started thinking about, wow, yes, you could do it that way, but this way is better. That's a fan that one works better than the other, but I was able to put together what I felt leadership was. Then I took that on in the private sector and meeting different leaders there. And getting college athletics and higher ed, it was very different to the point that it's a little more intimate. You're more engaged with the base of people you're working with. And so you really saw leadership styles that kind of varied based on if they were introvert or extroverts or things of that nature, how they handle difficult situations. And you learn a lot from that. And even though some people may have thought one leader was one way versus another, I was like, this part of that person is great. So let me add that to my repertoire and do that. So having the ability to do that, I think is really important. And I think for me, being able to, the fact that I really do believe in DEIB, I look at everybody the exact same. And in doing so, it allows me to open up my mind to maybe people think, what they go through. And that gives me enough empathy to lead the right way.
That's a wonderful, thoughtful answer. A little bit more about the Sports Innovation Institute. I want to make sure people understand the different ways that they can work with you all, because I think it also highlights there's a great breadth to the work that you're doing.
One of the things that I want people to see, especially if you go to our great website that been led by Hannah Marketing, you may be familiar with them. It really highlights everything we do very well. And one of the things that I want people to see are our 13 pillars of excellence. And what those pillars represent is what we do well on our campus within the sports and entertainment ecosystem. And so it ranges from brain health to sports performance, to esports, to sports technology, and that list continues to grow. And what we've been able to accomplish is identify all of the subject matter experts within those respective areas. It's unlike maybe most places, which I can't speak on, but we realize we have over 100 plus full-time faculty members that are involved in each of these pillars. And that, like I said, and what we've learned is the list keeps growing as they now realize, thanks to the work that we're doing as a hub, they now know, look, I'm doing research, Jay, and I understand you have a college grant program that your team runs. We do have a college grant program, thanks to Governor's Office of Economic Development, where we can have these funds that are donated to us and we reinvest back into our institution. Our college grant program to date, we have awarded nearly $1 million a grant that would help fuse positive impact in sports to research and innovation. Companies from the outside can work with one of our faculty members to be a part of that college grant program. Once we put it back out there, we do another call to action. Other ways is how we have our new SPE lab, how they can be a part of that. So some of the future plans for that are going to be pretty phenomenal. Dr. John Mercer on our team is leading the charge there. That'll give us the opportunity to work with Clark County School District, the Raiders, the Knights where they have camp, work with all the schools where they have events and things of that nature. So there's so many ways that people can connect with us. One of the things that I'm really proud of is how we were able to take advantage of the opportunity with the Super Bowl. And for that reason, I think that was the catalyst to people really understanding, man, if we can work with the Sports Innovation Institute, that can open up some doors to me, whether it's working with some of these sports teams or getting jobs or internships. And so I'm proud to say that we were able to raise over $350,000, pay students $25 an hour, those that were approved internship for class credit. We paid for 3 tuition credit hours out of the funds we raised. And that's thanks to collaborations with NFL Foundation, United Way of Southern Nevada, Las Vegas Super Bowl Host Committee, and students got a once in a lifetime opportunity. Those 40 students to really see how to put on a large scale event, how to work with high network folks or high position power brokers, if that makes sense. And they learned skills that led some of our students to entrepreneurship, earning championship rings, working for some of the other programs, having the ability to say, look, not only was I the intern for the Super Bowl, but I also intern for the Raiders, UFC, and the Golden Knights. So it's been really impressive to see how these students have grown through some of the programs they've been able to put together.
You talked about that program and it's very impressive, but that is a program that was put together for this Super Bowl by your team, like in collaboration with stakeholders. That didn't exist before. That wasn't a thing.
Yeah, and first of its kind to have all the interns for a Super Bowl host committee paid. Typically, they may pay for a few students at the end when they need more help, but for the entire duration leading up to the Super Bowl to have been paid, having a fully paid internship program has never happened. And what I wanted when I met with Sam Joffrey, CEO of the Las Vegas Super Bowl host committee, he said, look, I have a budget of X. And I said, well, that's great. How many students do you have? And he said, we need about 40 students to do this right. I was like, I don't think you have enough budget to do that, but let's think outside the box. And so we started to think outside the box. We actually came into my office, went up the whiteboard, understood the tuition cost, looked at, we wanted to make sure that whoever we hired through the interview process, they didn't have to choose between working for us or working for Starbucks. Nothing against Starbucks. I love Starbucks coffee, but I wanted students to really I wanted them to make a real business decision for their future, not a financial decision for today. And so we want to take that out, which is why we were out. And I told them, look, I'll take the charge, Sam. I'll go out and I'll find the money. If you support the program and you'll ask NFL Foundation to be a part of it, I'll go find the rest of it. And he goes, okay. We put the other program. He presented the NFL Foundation. They said yes. And I went out and found the rest, which was outstanding. And the thing that people aren't aware of, we did a story, and I think people missed it. At the end of it, we still needed another $56,000 to cover the final cost. And the Super Bowl host committee said, Jay, don't worry about it. We got you. This has been Without those students, this would have been invaluable. And that 56,000 was to pay for those 3 tuition credit hours for those students. And they actually stepped up and gave up that final 56,000, which was absolutely amazing.
Everything about that is just impressive. And I'm so grateful that those students got that opportunity.
Yeah, I would have never got that in South Bend, Indiana.
Right? I want to, before I move on, I want to make sure, is there anything else about the work that you're doing with Lee that you wanted to highlight that we didn't touch on?
There's so many things that are happening right now, and there's so many opportunities and challenges within our community. So I'll leave it at this. We are always working at how can we provide impact for our community and services to and opportunities for our students and our faculty. So we are working on we know healthcare is a huge topic for our state. And can one university do it on its own? Absolutely not. But we can play a pivotal role. So one of the things we're working on is how can we have an impact on athletic care? And with our sports medicine department, with hospitality, with the Institute and other key stakeholders, we're formulating a plan now that hopefully if we get greenlighted, it would have a major impact on how we do athletic care in Las Vegas, and which in turn would also help our healthcare ranking. And that's about as far as I can talk about it from that standpoint. But I do firmly believe that we are in the right trajectory to really making an impact, not only just for, again, our university, but for the community at large.
That's exciting. I will stay tuned on that. Want to move to a couple of recommendations, questions for you personally. Is there a book that you recommend or that you've given most often as a gift?
You know what? The book there's 2 over my time, and I'm pretty sure you've heard them, but I think they're relevant no matter what age, who's president of your university, president of the country, who's your boss, new job. And one is Who Moved My Cheese? And the other is From Good to Great. And only thing I've done from there is I always say, hey, how do we get from good to great? Then lastly, we can't stop there because that's just my athlete mentality is how do we get from great to awesome? And so those are the things that I like. Those are the books that I always come back to mind, even when I'm faced with challenges and the challenge is always when someone moves your cheese a little bit, right? So that's how that happens. And so those are 2 books that always come to mind.
All right. And I have a few Vegas questions for you. How long have you been in Vegas, and how do you see Vegas as being different from your first experience of it?
I first got in Vegas in 2010, and I was asked to come here from Arizona to help lead the Rub Athletic Fund. And at the time, we revamped it, and we did some really great things. That's when the Thomas and Mack was fitting room only most of the time, so that was really fun. How we did that, we implemented the first major gift program in UNLV athletic history at the time, which was called the Loyalty Circle program, and that became very successful. But what I learned here in that short period of time was, man, this might be the most philanthropic city I've ever been in. And it's really because it may feel like a big city, but we're small town folks here. And so that's something that's really has resonated with me. It doesn't matter where I go. Most people think we all live on the Strip. They don't realize we live in places like Summerlin or Henderson or Southwest or North Las Vegas or what have you. And I found that to be interesting, but also found it to be a little insulting at times too. Because that all they think about is the Strip. They don't think we have a real community. And that's something we do have is real communities with great people that just want to see our city be successful. They want to see the people that take pride in our city be successful. And people that take pride have the core values that resonate with me. And my core values stem around an acronym, which is HEART. I do a lot of things with my heart. Ben, you know me, I'm very heartfelt when it comes to a lot of different things. But I break it down with H for hardworking, E is excellence with integrity, A is accountability, but that accountability doesn't have to just be for, hey, you did something wrong. It's also okay to pat yourself on the back if something goes right? The R is respect for people, and last, and we all know this, T is teamwork. None of the things that we do can happen without great teamwork. And that's something that I've also seen here in the city. So even though I've left and went to Wisconsin and NIU, I met some of my best friends in the world here in Las Vegas. I met my wife here in Las Vegas. I have my stepson here and my 7-year-old daughter, and it's been phenomenal experience for me to be here outside of Thomasville, Georgia and Tallahassee, Florida. it's really the only city I've ever called home.
Are there groups or organizations in town that are doing great work that you want to recommend people check out?
Absolutely. The Vegas Chamber is one. I am proud to say that I am class of 2025 Leadership Las Vegas. So go Lions. So I am part of that class, and we are in the depths of it now as we move forward. But I think anybody who's been part of Leadership Las Vegas, that is a group that really people should be engaging with while they're here. But also the great things that all of our organizations do. I went to the Ackerman event last night at Allegiant Stadium, and that was incredible. There's so many great opportunities for people to get involved in our city that do really great things, whether it's Three Square, whether it's Shine a Light Foundation. The list goes on and on. But like a lot of the things, if you don't know about it, or if you're not trying to be curious about what's happening in our city, it may just go past you. And I like, there's so many organizations that I can call on right now, whether it's United Way, Scouts of America, they all do a really great job. And I think there's just not, I think we need more to help our community as we continue to grow.
Those are great organizations. And I reflect on what you said. What a giving city we live in. I have a tough one for you. What is your favorite meal in Las Vegas?
You know what? I knew that was going to be the one coming. That is a tough one because there's so many great places here in Las Vegas. You have to break that down to what cuisine do you like the best. And I feel makes it very difficult because yes, we're the sports and heavy capital of the world, but we might be the dining capital of the world too when it comes to steakhouses or Thai food, Japanese food, what have you. So I would say that it all depends on what mood I'm in and what I love. But if you want really good Korean barbecue, going down to Chinatown and you could just pick a couple places, whether it's Chubby Cattle or Triple Eight. There's so many great places that you can have an outstanding dining experience. And so I don't want to say one versus the other, but because I just so many different cuisines, I'm not just a steak and potatoes guy. I love sushi. I love everything. So wild game, you name it. So I just, that's what I love about the city is that it does give you those different types of offerings where you can never really get tired of one cuisine.
Yeah, you could spend a year going up and down Chinatown. How about what's a favorite spot to view the city?
You know what? I've always liked the top of Mandalay. I always thought that was a great, I'm in the foundation room. I always thought that was a great place to sit out and possibly have a nice beverage and look outside and see what's happening. But I've also had the opportunities to go out with some friends on their buggies and go up the mountaintop of different areas and see the fireworks from the city there. And there's some really cool spots that don't really have an address, right? There's no one there. You have to get up there on a Can-Am or Polaris or something like that. But because we have this great mountain range surrounding us, there's so many cool spots that you could just sit back and just watch the light or the stars up in the sky. And it's just a very pretty, beautiful sight.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the fireworks. Like on July 4th or something, it's
Yeah.
literally everywhere at once.
Yeah.
Final question for you. If there was a phrase or a quote or idea that you could just share with millions of people, what would that be?
I don't have my own phrase. As I said earlier, I love to learn from folks. And one leader that was just really the main reason why I went to Notre Dame was Lou Holtz. And I go back to a lot of things that he taught us and what he said to us. But what always resonates with all of us is this saying, do what's right, do your best, and show others you care. Simple.
That's it. Beautiful and simple. I will include contact information for you and the Institute in the notes that go out with this. But how do people get in touch or follow you?
You'll have that contact information there. I'm very easy to get in contact with via email. Call my number, and the number you're probably going to have is my cell phone anyway. So that works out well too. And I'm always open to have conversations with folks, especially if it's about enhancing the status of our university, but also promoting our students and our faculty.
All right. Thank you. I'm grateful for the time you spent with us, and I'm looking forward to all the things that are coming that you just were sort of hinting at. I know that it'll be exciting.
I hope it will be exciting once it can be green lighted. So we're working on that aspect of it as we speak.
All right. Thank you very much.
Ben, thank you. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to have a conversation with you.